Here we go.
I
I have to
Hello.
make sure I do everything here. Okay, episode 23 of the IQ podcast. Today, Eacher meets Snazzy. We're missing your name tag. Do you want to try to fix that?
I am missing my name tag. You were right.
And I'm joined by NorthernxRush. Nobody needs to know who you are, Snazzy.
Who are you even? My goodness.
Why would anyone need to know that?
Northern, welcome to the podcast. Thank you
Hello.
for being here. It was quite a thing. This is our first time actually having like kind of a very outside of the podcast group guest. So you've been in IQ for a while, and you I think I kind of twisted your arm into joining at some point, probably.
A little bit of arm twisting, but overall.
You joined after we started working together?
Yeah, basically, me and you started working together, and then, shortly after that, you kind of showed me infinite quality, and I thought it was at the time, I was like, that's a pretty quality, I'll think about it, and then, a couple months went by, you kept asking, and I was like, all right, fine,
I didn't let it go.
Sonny playing the long con, really.
Well, we're glad to have you in IQ, and even if you weren't an IQ member, we'd have you on the podcast, and I'd still.
Well, hey, I appreciate the opportunity, and thank you very much for having me this evening.
You
Yeah,
have no idea
for sure.
how wonderful it is to have somebody else with a beard on the podcast.
Oh,
Oh my goodness.
Sorry,
Hey,
mine just never grows right. Sorry.
Mine too. I can't grow a beard. I feel called out. All right. So we're going to be kind of doing this more like interview style, discussing the things that kind of Rush brings up. We're going to be talking mostly with Rush tonight. So Rush, why don't you give us kind of your general background?
Okay.
How did you get to Twitch? Why Twitch? What would you first start doing? All of that. So.
Okay, well, I'm NorthernxRush, for those that don't know me. I mainly stream For Honor. For Honor is kind of the main category I've been in for the past 3.5 years I've been streaming. I first originally started streaming on Xbox, like just using a laptop and a capture card in my Xbox, and I was playing For Honor on Xbox for a long time, and then I eventually gained enough support to where I was able to build a PC, and I moved to the PC For Honor scene, and that's kind of where I've been since then. I do play other games as well, but For Honor is kind of like our main staple around our channel. Like we're mainly focused around, For Honor and competitive For Honor and stuff like around that. I've been doing this for like 3.5 years now, so I've kind of gained a decent following in the For Honor category. It's been I know a lot of streamers will tell you, that you don't want to get game locked in one category, but I kind of found that it is a pretty good niche for me. It's a medieval fighting game with Vikings in it. I mean, it kind of just works, you know what I mean? But I know I met Sonny through Jared actually.
The best Jared.
Yeah, the best Jared. I think he actually pointed me in your direction back when I needed some alerts made, like 2 years ago or something like that.
I think, yeah, that sounds right. You messaged me,
right.
and I was like, how about we just work on everything always?
Yeah. At the time, I had a very, beginner, I guess you could say beginner overlay going on. I didn't have a whole lot of stuff on my channel as far as alerts and, transitions and cool stuff going on. It was just very, very basic, and Sonny's done a good job to kind of help me out with that sort of thing. And
yeah, so full disclosure, we have a business relationship.
Yes.
Basically.
Yes.
So that's good, Rush. You started on Xbox. What was that like?
It was okay. It was a task, not having a PC to work with made things a little bit tricky in the technological aspect. A lot of things could go wrong when you're using a capture card and a laptop and
True.
a lot of stuff going on. But switching from Xbox to PC was more, I noticed more like in game than I did necessarily on stream. A lot of our community is still around from the Xbox days. Like they were there back then. They've just sort of stuck around, and I may not necessarily play with the Xbox scene anymore, but they still hang out. And they're still around, so it's not a huge change to me per se, but it was still pretty cool to
But
go
is
to
it like, or is the scene like radically different? Is there's no crossplay or anything like that? Like once you
no,
move
there
over
is no
to-
crossplay in For Honor.
How is that true? I don't understand that.
How? Well, because in certain fighting games, like for example, there's input latency in
Rocket League is basically
Yes.
cross-platform and everything. I mean,
yes,
talk about latency. Apex Legends, Fortnite.
yeah, no, it's true. I mean, it comes down to milliseconds of time. Like moves in For Honor take literally milliseconds to do. So even the slightest bit of input delay would give you a disadvantage against someone on PC who has maybe got like a decent setup.
That's
and is
true
getting-
with crossplay for every competitive
Yeah.
game. I feel like
No, for
Ubisoft's
sure.
just being lazy.
Sorry,
Could
wait,
be.
are you you're playing For Honor on PC now?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. PC is what my main account is. I do go back to Xbox every once in a while if I have issues on PC or something, but yeah.
Mhm.
Not that I want to get too deeply into this, but I think a lot of people have a fear going from like a simple setup, like you started with Xbox.
Yep.
And so there had to have been something along the way that sort of motivated you to make your stream more complicated, more complex overall.
Mhm.
And like, so was that a struggle for you? I mean, you still struggle with tech stuff. We all do, obviously. So,
Yeah.
but now, so just to give people the full gamut, I have a lot of. I'm going to ask you things I know, right?
Yeah.
I'm just it's for everyone else. So you've gone from streaming on Xbox, and now your setup is a PC, and you have a stream computer, right?
Yeah, I now have a 2 PC setup. One of my PCs is where I do all my gaming, and that's where the music and like anything I got to do on my normal PC that takes place on my gaming PC. But I use a capture card in my streaming PC to broadcast it all. So everything I do on my gaming PC is broadcasted to OBS in my streaming PC, and then broadcasted to Twitch.
Right.
So it frees up a lot more room on my gaming PC.
So would you
For
consider
other
yourself
things.
very tech savvy?
No, not at all. Actually, in fact, quite the opposite. I need my hand held with literally everything that goes wrong. So
Right. So, but you still stream this way pretty successfully, right?
yeah. I think it's it frees up a lot of room on my PC for cool alerts and overlays and stuff like that. So I have a lot more like freedom to do that. Where as before, when I was on a 1 PC setup, I'd try to have some cool alerts come in and they would freeze up because my PC can't do both at the same time. So, it kind of frees up a little bit of room on your PC.
Right. So, go ahead.
This is an interesting point to talk about PC versus like 1 PC or one console with 1 PC versus 2 PC setup. Because I think Northern and myself have a 2 PC setup.
Mm-hmm.
Nazzy, I don't remember what your setup looks like.
We're
Are you
trying.
single PCs?
We're trying.
Trying to move on into that sphere because like Rush said, it's nice that your alerts don't stutter because you're playing Horizon Zero Dawn on a 780 Ti or whatever.
Right.
Dang.
It adds a level of complexity, right? And that
definitely
can be
does.
really challenging to set up and like test for issues. But yeah, 2 PC setup is a pretty positive experience overall, I think. So
Yeah.
When it's
certainly-
working.
when
Overall,
when
yeah.
it works right, it works really
When it works.
nicely.
I think from a technical aspect, 2 PC is actually probably easier to try to figure out what's wrong because sometimes if it's all on one computer, it's usually software that's bugging things out. And when you separate things out to 2 computers, it becomes a little more obvious where something is broken. Now it can be more complicated because you've got a lot more cables to deal with. But also, Rush, you have a soundboard as well, right? So I know we
Yes,
set that
I do.
up, which is probably the thing most streamers will be like, yeah, stream computer, I could probably handle that. But a soundboard they look at and think, oh, scary, super, super scary.
I mean, to be fair, it is pretty complex, but once you have it set up, it's set up, and it makes things a lot easier for controlling volumes on different things, like on the fly. You don't need to open up an application and drag the slider down on Spotify to turn things down. You just got a little knob you can slide instead, and when everything's working right, it's really comfortable. It's very comfortable, but there is the issue of having like tech things go wrong, and yeah, it adds a little bit of a bump in the road if you do have something go wrong, because you kind of got to decipher what it is. But when everything's working great, it's very, very comfortable to use, just in like everyday streaming situations when you're just trying to go live and
Yeah.
you know,
And sound can break no matter what you're using. So
Right.
Windows can break
Very
your
true.
audio at any point.
Yep.
Do you ever miss it? Do you ever like, oh man, I wish I was back on my Xbox/one PC day?
Oh no, never, not really. I mean, it's
Never.
pretty much, it's a pretty big difference. I
The
mean,
simplicity caps out after a certain point. You know, like you start to have to, once you get a certain amount of CCVs, you really have to consider the quality in what you're offering your group if you want to continue to grow.
right.
Yep.
And it's kind, it kind of reminds me of like, you know, writing on caves and stuff like the cavemen used to do, and then they discovered paper. It's kind of like that. It just makes it a little bit better, but it adds a little bit of technical to it. So
Yeah, true. Okay, so what is your biggest struggle with streaming from the beginning? And you could have overcome this, but or it doesn't have to be a current struggle. Can you think back? What do you think like was the most difficult thing for you with Twitch or streaming in general?
I guess in general, the hardest thing I've found like earlier on was trying to find where I fit. You know what I mean? Like everyone kind of starts streaming with the idea that, hey, I'm just going to play video games on stream and I'm just going to play whatever and it's going to work. Well, it doesn't necessarily work like that when you're just starting out. You kind of have to find a niche. And I've always been streaming For Honor, but I used to play a lot more other games too. I used to stream like Rocket League and Fortnite and all sorts of other games. Yes, believe it or not, I did used to stream Fortnite at
Same,
one point.
I got you. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
We're not going to hold it against you. Or anything.
Right.
Snazzy
So
has a Fortnite stream coming.
I do.
probably. I wouldn't doubt it.
Dreading it. I'm dreading it.
But I found once that I found something that worked for me and that I enjoyed doing, because I genuinely enjoy playing For Honor. Even when I'm not streaming, I play For Honor. So it's I'm kind of blessed with that, because a lot of people will say you kind of have to earn the right to play your favorite game on stream and make it work. Like it takes a little bit of work to get there, but I'm just kind of thankful that I'm able to play the game that I actually enjoy most of all,
Right.
and make it work for myself. But for the longest time, I would just stream, you know, whatever. I'd play whatever, and I would kind of get frustrated and be like, dang, I'm not getting any views here. Like, what's the issue? And then I kind of just thought about it. I was like, you know, maybe I need to lean into the whole Viking fighting game persona.
We can see your screen meets instead of the camera.
Oh, for Pete's sake. What is going on there? Sorry. I was clicking on something and it popped up other stuff. Don't mind the literature there.
But how do you? I mean, obviously, you know, For Honor is your favorite game, but like, do you ever get tired of it? Do you be like, oh man, I wish I could do something else, but like,
Well, I mean,
the crowd is screaming For Honor.
yes and no. What I find is that recently I've started to dabble a little bit into like the competitive For Honor scene, and that kind of keeps things interesting rather than just casually playing the game. You know, just play it in matchmaking and just go through the rotations and stuff like that. Like adding a bit of like competitiveness to it and learning the optimal like ways to play and stuff kind of keeps it interesting. And as well as like, I started hosting tournaments once a month, and that kind of keeps things interesting too.
Yeah, we'll get to
like,
that.
Yeah, we'll get to that later. But like, you know, adding different things into the mix to kind of spice up what you're doing, I find that kind of keeps it interesting as well.
Would you say you're normally competitive though, or are you normally, or you know, like a
I use the
casual,
term,
as it were?
I use the term casually competitive, because sometimes I just don't want to be. You know what I mean? Like sometimes I just don't feel like playing the super sweaty optimal strats all the time. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you just like to relax and play the game and just go through it and hang out with people. You know, I find that it helps to have like a little switch. You know what I mean?
Have you
That's the
found
way I
a
look at it.
difference in your viewership and community when you're doing more like sweat lobbies versus casual play?
Exactly.
Not really. It's kind of just two different scenes. You know, there's the people that enjoy For Honor just for the game, and then there's some people that enjoy For Honor just for the competitiveness. So sometimes when we're doing certain events or something, you know, a certain group of people will show up, and then once the event's over, you know, they'll kind of fade out and they'll come back next time you do the event. but they're more so in for like, you know, one or the other. Sometimes people like are there for both.
So would you say that diversifying, even if it's within the same category, within the same game, diversifying how you approach the game has been helpful for you from a community building standpoint?
Yeah. It also helps
Okay.
to like do other things in the game too. Like for example, I used to do like Bloodborne and stuff like that too, and I found that like every once in a while doing like maybe like a sinister run or something where you allow, you know, your chat to invade you at any time, like that kind of adds a little bit of spice to it, you know what I mean? Every once in a while, stuff like that. You know, just, you know, adding little bits and things to make it more interesting.
We went from your biggest struggle to your greatest strength. So fast. It's
Would
true.
you say there's is there like certain games that you would classify as like easy to cross over into though from For Honor?
Yes.
Like other fighting games or Bloodborne or things like that?
So
Like,
believe it or not,
where does the community follow you to?
So believe it or not, the Dark Souls community has a lot of people that are also in the For Honor community because
I'm not surprised.
I believe it.
they're both third person melee style medieval games. You know what I mean? One's an RPG, one's a multiplayer fighting game. They're different, but they both kind of blend together sometimes. Otherwise, sometimes games like Mordhau or Chivalry, other medieval style fighting games that are not necessarily the same style, but stuff like that or like Bannerlord, like stuff that's kind of in the same genre of like medieval. I find that those kind of games kind of attract the same amount of people.
You know, it's funny because I was going to ask, like, Mordhau seems like a definite homage to For Honor a bit, right? Is that something that you guys play a lot?
I used to play Mordhau a bit. I'm really, really bad at it though. So it turns into me getting frustrated a lot, but that's good content sometimes for some people. So some people like that.
So Northern, you do some just chatting type streams as well. Have you found the ability to try to transition between those? And sorry, Sonny, did I steal your transition?
No, you're good. This is great.
No, I kind of do those more as like, you know, just kind of a way to do extra stuff with the community that kind of sets you apart than just the typical, you know, because there's lots of For Honor streamers and there's lots of Call of Duty streamers and lots of Dark Souls streamers, and you know, there's lots of different people. But once you know, the people have kind of solidified themselves in the community as someone who just phone's ringing.
It's not mine, so I don't feel too bad.
Sorry about that. Once people start to sort of just solidify themselves in the community as someone who enjoys you as a content creator, it's kind of just fun to do stuff like that because people enjoy coming out to stuff like that, you know. I do a lot of IRL stuff sometimes, like when it's, you know, nicer outside. We did like a Renaissance Fair stream where I went to the Renaissance Fair and, you know, brought my IRL setup for that. And, you know, that's kind of medieval too. So it kind of attracts the same type of crowd that like to see that sort of thing. You know what I mean?
Listen, as somebody who's in the SCA, I very much appreciate anything medieval.
Oh yeah, exactly.
You're not really. Go ahead.
I'm just asking curiosity questions, right? Have you found a certain approach to those IRL or cooking streams or, you know, just chatting streams to be more beneficial than others? Like what's your approach when you do a non-gaming stream?
I mean, the whole point of me doing them isn't necessarily to gain new members of the community. It's more so just to give the people that are in the community a little something extra to kind of be like, I like it here because he does other stuff like that isn't just For Honor. Kind of sets you apart from, you know, the other people that are doing kind of the same thing you are doing. You know what I mean? Similar.
That's what I was kind of going to ask was you have this anchor For Honor, and do you feel like that actually lets you do other things? Like, I think a lot of people think, I don't want to get game locked, but that might be like the opposite of what's true, right? Because you're locked to For Honor, you can go do like a cooking stream and you can go play Dark Souls. And because it's not game lock isn't really real because you feel like, okay, so less people are going to watch me cook, but I'll go play For Honor and people will show up for that. So now it's not like really like that scary like you know that maybe it'll hurt your partnership application or something like that at some point because your numbers are jumping around a lot from moving around. But if you just do it enough, like a little bit, right? Does it make you feel a little more safe because you have For Honor as like your
Yeah. Like if I'm really hurting for views, like if which I personally don't keep my viewer count in front of me ever. I always look at it after stream. So it helps to know that like I can do other stuff and people will still show up and watch it. And if they don't, then oh well, I'll just go back to playing For Honor. But I feel like I've been doing this long enough to the point like I have a decent sized community that enjoys me just for me and enjoys seeing stuff like that, like the cooking streams and like the IRL stuff. Like it's kind of just like an extra bonus to being part of the community. But
I was gonna ask you, like you said, I mean, obviously there obviously are other For Honor streamers. I honestly personally don't know anyone else who streams For Honor.
it's a very small category.
It looks small, but it's clearly vibrant. How would you say, like, what is your interaction with some of these other quote unquote big For Honor personalities in that category?
Okay, well, see, there's the cool thing about the For Honor community is there's people from all over the world. So I find what helps me a lot is just a simple raid. A simple raid can do a lot for other people. It helps to meet other people, and maybe they come to your stream and you guys like each other, and you hang out in each other's streams, and maybe eventually, if you guys are on at the same time, you can collaborate with them and play together. I've done that plenty of times. I'll know a specific person streams at the same time I do. So I'll message them, be like, hey, do you want to play the game together tonight? And, that way both people's chat can kind of come together, and it kind of just boosts each other. You know what I mean? It's all collaboration.
Do you ever have to throw the gauntlet down with somebody and be like, I'm offended by what you said. I need to fight you in game?
No, but that's mainly because I'd probably lose.
So that brings out the concept of, do you have to be good at For Honor to be a good streamer of For Honor?
See, that kind of you don't have to be good per se. You have to be entertaining. It depends. So I have a competitive For Honor team that competes in like the official Dominion Series Ubisoft tournament that For Honor actually hosts. And whenever you're doing stuff like that, you're gonna have people that are coming to the stream to watch you do good. And if you don't do good and you make mistakes, they kind of, sometimes they'll tear you apart. But that's only if you want to go the competitive route. If you want to be like just a, typical run of the mill, not typical, I shouldn't say typical, but if you want to just play For Honor for playing For Honor, you just gotta be entertaining. People can go watch somebody play For Honor anywhere. You know what I mean? If they want to watch you got to give them something to want to watch. You know what I mean?
Would you say that there's a lot of would you say most of your viewers are US viewers, or is there more of a tilt towards someplace else?
It depends on yes and no. Getting towards like the later periods of the night, so maybe after like 9:00 my time, it's usually mainly just people from this side of the world. But at the beginning of my streams, when I start, the first couple hours, I'll have people from all over the world, people from Europe, people from Africa, people from Australia. Like it's kind of just a demographic, medieval stuff kind of appeals to everybody all over the world, no matter where you are. So it just depends on who's up. But typically it's usually people from NA, North America, that kind of watch my stream at the time I stream, because I kind of stream in the evenings. But
yeah, that can be really hard for the European audience, for sure.
Yeah. When I do stream during the day, though, I find that a lot of my European audience that don't necessarily get to watch the stream that often, because I stream at a certain time, they appreciate it a lot more, because then they're able to hang out in the stream and like participate more than they're used to.
And do you, I'm assuming you balance it with a day job? Like, how does that work?
I do.
How does that work
a day
out?
job. It's rough. It's not the most comfortable schedule. At this point, I'm just kind of used to it because I've been doing it for so long. But as long as you just kind of set a boundary with yourself to be like, I don't overwork myself in one or the other, it's fairly manageable. You got to take a nap after work before stream. You got to take a nap before work after stream. Sometimes you just got to do stuff like that,
Yeah, it's all about knowing your own limits and abilities, for sure.
Right.
And sometimes reaching those before you know them for sure.
Right.
So Northern, I wanted to ask you a little bit about your community specifically. So For Honor is not a huge category, but it certainly is a category with some competition. For some of our streamers that may be listening in that are considering, sticking with a singular category, specifically about you, what do you think you've done to help you stand out in your category as a sort of casual / competitive, but not always one specific part of For Honor? How do you stand out? How have you created that community?
Well, a couple things. This is gonna kind of sound kind of funny, but the beard definitely helps.
Okay.
Beard gets clicks.
Beards get clicks. It's a medieval fighting game with Vikings.
Sure.
It just kind of works together. Other than that, I do a lot of like Friday nights. I'll have people use their channel points to have me to request a certain hero, and then I have to play that hero for a match. And sometimes I have no idea how to play that hero well at all, so I'll just make a fool of myself, and people think it's funny. I've also started hosting tournaments once a month in the Northern Horde Tournament League. That seems to be a lot of people like that because Ubisoft's tournaments aren't always broadcasted on Twitch. So having people be able to watch the competitive scene without watching the actual competitive, you know what I mean? Like it kind of gives it a variable for people to be interested in. Even if they don't compete, they might want to watch people compete, but might not have the possibility of it. And it also allows people that don't normally compete in like the big tournaments to kind of, hey, I want to dip my toe into the competitive scene a little bit. Let me try one of NorthernxRush's tournaments that he does once a month. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It kind of helps with that. Just doing community events. Every Friday, like I said, I have the hero choice thing. Sometimes I'll do like streams where I have to duel anybody that wants to duel me, no matter how good they are. So having people come by for that kind of helps a little bit too.
So finding some ways to engage your community uniquely is kind of what I'm hearing.
Yeah, basically,
Okay.
kind of mix it up, kind of set you, just do. And it could be anything really. You could dress up as somebody on stream for a couple streams, and you'd probably end up getting a lot of clicks.
Have you done that? Have you dressed up on stream?
I have. I've done Viking war paint a few times. I've braided my hair, I braid my beard, I put the war paint on, and it's pretty fun. It's usually for like special releases for a new hero or something.
I think people will hear this though and they'll think, well, I do that. I played Mario Kart.
Right.
And so how is what you're talking about drastically different from somebody who's like, well, I do community stuff. Like once a week I play Mario Kart.
You kind of have to find something that your community wants to do. Not a whole lot of people are able to play Mario Kart or anything like that because maybe maybe most people in your community don't have a Nintendo Switch or don't play Mario Kart or whatever it is. If it's a random game that's not really anything to do with what you do, it's kind of hard to like pull people into that when no one's really into that. You know what I mean? Like I've tried that too.
What you just said is really important. You said if it's not related to what you're doing, like okay, so that's what you kind of have to define first.
Right.
And this is why choosing a single game to kind of dominate the category, create a community around, then you have that thing defined. You have this is what my stream is. This is what I'm doing. And so now it becomes obvious that Mario Kart is way too foreign from that.
Right.
It's like so too many steps removed to be a community thing. And I think too many streamers approach streaming from the perspective of it's like too abstract. My community. Well, my community likes it when, and it's like, but what are they really gathering there for? Right. And if you have 10 viewers, they could all just be gathering there because they like you, but that's not really a thing that lets you define anything from it. Right. Because you're going to go be there no matter what you're doing. So those 10 people don't care what you're doing. And so with you, it's very clear that you have this For Honor community. And when you do For Honor events and do For Honor structured, like the channel point redemption that allows people to duel you or choose like your character, these are like very directly related to what you're doing.
Right. And I mean, as long as it's kind of similar to like I said, like For Honor's a medieval game, so I kind of keep things that are in that same category, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
That sort of helps. Like I tried the Mario Kart community night once, and it was like I
Oh.
hyped it up for like 2 weeks. I was like, all right, next Friday we're playing Mario Kart. So if you have a Nintendo Switch, come by. I'll be playing with anyone that wants to play. And there was a ton of people watching, but only one person wanted to play. So it was like, well, this isn't exactly a community game night. This is just you guys watching me play something that's completely different than what I usually
If they had For Honor cart, like if you had like the
For Honor
Heroes
cart.
racing,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah,
that would probably bring them in.
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
pretty
They'd be grinding
popular
for that cart
concept,
too.
right?
Right.
So I wanted to ask you about like so you said you host events and tournaments once a month.
Yep.
Like how are those like? Like is it just like bragging rights? Do you give out prizes? Like what's the incentive for somebody to show up on a tournament night? Besides
What
the
I
obvious,
do is
right?
I usually run 4 tournaments a season, like in-game season.
Mhm.
Because they're usually about 3 or 4 months long. And what I'll do is I'll run like 3 preliminary tournaments that are kind of smaller, and you have to get certain amount of points from those tournaments to make it to the season finals. And for those preliminary tournaments, I'll give away a small prize, whether it's in-game currency, whether it's $100 for the team of 4, so $25 each. Sometimes I'll do that. I'll take it out of my Twitch earnings. I'll give it like a little portion of that, just a way to give back to the community. You know what I mean? And then
That's
at the end
smart.
of the season, I'll have like a bigger prize of some kind. I'm actually in the process of trying to get like Ubisoft to give me steel packs to give away. I just got to get more of a following in that tournament thing first, and that's
I was gonna say,
kind
is Ubisoft like gotten wind of this at all? Have you?
yeah.
Have you
No, yeah,
emailed them?
I've approached them about it. They're just, they're kind of in the boat where like, well, we don't want to give you a bunch of steel and then not have anybody show up. You know what I mean? Then you just keep it. Like they want to, they want to make sure people are actually participating before they
fair, I guess.
decide to help out like that. So I think we're on the way there. But
Yeah,
it's
And would you
definitely-
say like obviously like there's season stuff, but how viable is the category though? Would you say For Honor's got like a bright shining future ahead of it, or is is
I
that one
mean-
thing you eventually have to move away from?
For Honor's, it's got a future ahead of it for sure. It's in year 6 of the game now, so it's been a while. It's been a thing for a little while now. It's not a huge category on Twitch. It's one of those things where if you want to get into For Honor and like if you want to pick that game or any game, for example, that has that amount of viewership, because it's got about, I don't know, if you type in For Honor on Twitch right now, it's probably got like 500 viewers total in the whole world. So you kind of have to do something to either cement yourself in that makes you stand out, or you have to be really good at the game. And that's just that game in general. But if you were to do anything for that matter, whether it's Dark Souls kind of has a smaller viewership too. You kind of have to do something a little bit unique, like certain runs, or like deathless runs, hitless runs, speed runs, all that stuff. Or maybe if you don't play it all that often, maybe just like doing like a soul level 1 playthrough or something. But
What would you say to people who would look at that, for example, like For Honor, right, and they would see 500 viewers and turn their nose up at it and go like, well, I don't want to be in a category with 500 viewers total. Like, what would you say to those people?
well, if they're newer streamers, that's what you want to be shooting for. You kind of want to be shooting. I mean, that's kind of the reason I decided to start streaming it, because I was like, well, no one really streams this game all that much. Like I started out streaming when I first started streaming. I was streaming a lot of For Honor, Rocket League, and Call of Duty Blackout. And Blackout and Rocket League both had 50,000 some plus viewers, and I wasn't getting any views because I'm at the very, very, very bottom of the list, and no one's going to find me down there. But if you pick a game like For Honor, where the list isn't that big, people scrolling through might see you and be like, hey, this guy looks interesting, because you're not going to be at the very, very bottom. You're going to be at the bottom maybe, but not all the way down.
The bottom loads when they click on the category.
Yeah.
Right.
They can see you.
It's
Right.
all about picking based off of streamer and viewer interest, right?
Right.
So
Yep.
thinking about how many people are streaming the game and how many people are viewing the game. And if it looks like based on your average numbers, it's sitting in a place that you are likely to be nearest to the top, that's not a bad place to be. That's
Right.
for sure. But
Yep.
that does take some research because you have to consider the time of day that you're streaming, the type of game that you're streaming, and what your average viewership tends to look like.
Right.
So it does take a little bit of thoughtfulness from that perspective.
I
But if
think-
you go ahead.
I think it's very important that people take from this that it's not a negative thing to go into a smaller category because
Right.
Rush, you looked at For Honor and said, "Oh, there's 500 people watching this category generally," like, but that has been your benefit to your benefit because you've unlocked the partner application, correct?
This is true. Yes, I did set I set my first partner application in back in December. It did get rejected, but that's okay. They very,
Real.
very
They do
rarely-
that. Yeah, that's
They
We
I
talked-
very
feel
rarely
like they
accept you the
have to
first time
reject it
anyway.
at least a couple times.
the first one
It's
at
almost a
minimum.
requirement.
Play
I-
hard to get, yeah.
In my opinion, they're doing it. They reject the first one as like a test on the streamer because if you
Right.
can't handle rejection, you're not going to do well in this industry.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
So it's like, yeah. So for the most part, but still, the point here is that you started streaming in a category that a lot of people, like Snazzy was trying to say, would kind of look at and go, no one watches this. Why would I stream? I don't want to stream
On
this
their nose,
game.
I bet, yeah.
Like, why would I be a streamer in this category? And exactly that is the exact reason you should be in the category is you can
Yeah,
actually go
exactly.
in there and be somebody. Like,
Right.
Right.
as 100 viewers, like that, you're gonna be like, I never want 100 people watching me because I'm playing this game. Like, well, that's a
Yeah,
great way to get 100 people to watch you.
And
It's
kind of
it's the idea of the small but dedicated following, right?
yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
And
And
going
on that
back,
topic, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, going back to, I'm kind of backtracking a little bit, but going back to the whole like game lock thing, I do the same thing when I don't play For Honor. Like if I'm gonna play a different game, like if I'm like, all right, I'm taking a day this week to play something else, I'll do the same thing as I'll go into the game category and find something that has a relatively smaller viewer base, and I'll pick something like that I want to play
Hmm.
because it's the same, it's the same concept.
So
So
Exactly.
so in that ilk, if you were to provide advice to other streamers that are thinking about, kind of building a community around a commonality of a game, what would be some advice that you would offer those streamers to help make that more successful?
I would say do something that makes you stick out when you do get in that list. For me, I'm just blessed with good genetics, so I have a large beard, and people, they go
Yeah, I
they go
don't have
scrolling
that.
through, and they're like, "Hey, this guy's got a beard." Click.
So you're saying buy fake beards if you can't grow.
Fake beards, got it. Check.
That or something. Maybe I don't know. Make yourself stand out somewhat, even if it's just a little bit. Maybe
It's
you have lights in the
clickability,
background.
right? Something
Yeah,
that'll make
clickability.
someone click on your thumbnail.
And then
That's
do
actually
stuff
that was the
that
question
makes-
I was going to ask. Is like, what are some things that you do visually to stand out? From everyone.
Well,
besides
first
the
of
beard?
all, you're going to have to have I mean, I know some people are going to disagree, but you have to have a webcam. If you want to attract people to that kind of category right away, because they're going to
Yeah,
pick
just browsers. Yeah.
most of the time someone browsing the category is going to choose somebody with a webcam over you. That's just kind of how it goes. It's not necessarily true for everybody, but general rule of thumb, you kind of want a webcam that looks at least somewhat decent. You don't need to have like a Go XLR or anything like that to make yourself you can have a normal webcam, but something like that would help. And then stickiness. I know it's something we talk about in here, but once they get in there and they're watching your stream, do stuff that makes them want to stick around and come back. You know what I mean? Minimize dead air. Have a good audio setup so it doesn't hurt their ears immediately upon entering your stream. Because that's one thing that I know. If I go into a stream and there's like a kid yelling in the background or something, I'm out right away.
Yeah.
That's just me.
Or it sounds like they're talking through a tin can.
Yeah, their microphone sounds bad or something,
Yeah.
stuff like that. You gotta go back and watch your VODs and think to yourself, would I watch this stream? You know what I mean? Like that sort of thing. I find stuff like that helps.
Yep.
Like obviously, you have a lot of cool stuff going on behind you. Would you say like that's by design or just because you don't like green screens?
Well, all this stuff over here is actually stuff that's been sent to me from my community. Well, not everything, but most of the stuff back here is stuff that's been sent to me by the community or stuff that I've had on as a prop at one point, like the monkey mask back there. I used to put that on for channel points. But it helps to have a good, if you're not going to use a green screen, if you're going to use, just your room like this, have stuff in the background that looks kind of cool. Take your trinkets out and you got. I know Snazzy, you do Gundam, put the Gundams out or something,
Oh, I wish. Oh, if I had room.
I was going to use a green screen at one point, and I asked the community at one point, would you guys prefer me to use a green screen or do you guys like the room setup? And people told me they thought the room was a lot more homey, more wholesome. It kind of made you feel like you were actually seeing the streamer's life instead of just a face in the corner of the screen, but that's to each their own, some people like the green screen. I like green screens too. I'll probably use one at some point, but
there's definitely positive and negatives to the green screen for sure.
Exactly.
And if you have that kind of I feel like from what I've seen, if you have some of that welcoming atmosphere, if you have a background that can exemplify that sensation, it's not bad to have. But some people that have like the full webcam that have like a towel and a couch behind them.
Right.
It's like, you should probably get a green screen if that's going to be your background.
Yeah.
So,
Like if you're
it's all about what
exactly.
you can present forwardly. And I do think that people respond positively to a green screen with a kind of an interesting background, or sorry, a non-green screen with an interesting background versus, kind of a dull background with green screen. But it's definitely, there's positives and negatives to both for sure.
I was gonna say, I'm
definitely.
pretty sure Sonny's Garfield is like getting closer without physically moving. Like,
Those glowing eyes, they creep me out, frankly. Staring into my soul.
Yeah, we've talked about this a lot on the Friday show where I kind of try to help people with their streams and tech stuff on the IQ channel, and some of this is always being brought up. Like you want to put some thought into your room sends a message. And so like looking at your camera rush, we can see like there's a sword, there's banners, there's a guitar, right? Which we haven't even got into like you're a part of a band, right? Yep. So you're a vocalist.
Yep, I do vocals in the band Tartarus.
So if anybody wants to check that out, there's a link in your panels. And everybody, please go check out NorthernxRush's stream. I'm sure he'd be happy to discuss things with you over there and talk to you about all this stuff as well on his channel. So, but yeah, your room says a lot. There's no shout out command, Snazzy.
Hey, come on.
One day.
We brought this up a few times already. Get us a shout out command.
All right. So anyway, because most people are listening to this on Spotify, so it's like,
that's true.
Yeah. And pretty much everybody in chat, they already know NorthernxRush. Like it's very, so we will get there. We will get there.
It's
okay.
Useful.
So, but yes, if you're seeing this on video, Rush has got his room sends a message. You've got like all this stuff to look at that's not you, and it's all very visible even when you're playing a game. So, I'd say. I always tell people, just think about it. Like, what does your room say about you? What, it could literally be as silly as like, is your bed not made behind you? Like these things play a weird role, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Like I go and like make sure my controllers aren't like crooked and stuff. Like, I put LED lights on in my room so that it's not just like a dark room and nothing's going on.
Yeah, because you may be used to your room setup, but somebody else coming into your stream for the first time sees your room, and it's probably going to make a big impact on what they think about you right away. I mean, it's even if it's stuff that you see every day, they'll be like, "Whoa, cool! He's got a sword back there. He's got a Dungeons and Dragons big dice over there or something." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's just it can also spark up conversation too. Like people be like, "Hey, what's that thing back there?" And then you can kind of pull it out and show them and talk about it, talk about the person that sent it to you, and what it means to you and that sort of thing. Like it has it has a few benefits.
True. So if you could, you have one more, Snazzy?
I was actually going to ask, like, because we touched upon, you being a vocalist and such. Do you bring that into stream ever? Do you bring your music, your band, maybe other music? Do you flex that vocal talent on stream?
A little bit. So I have a stream playlist, and like all the music I play on my stream playlist is like DMCA, DMCA safe and all that stuff, and it's usually like independent artists, and like I'll listen to a lot of metal on my stream. We have kind of like two playlists. We have one that's kind of just like battle ambience music, and then one that's sort of like actual music that people listen to. And I'm going to start doing this, but I'm going to start recording vocals for my band on stream because now I have an actual like audio setup that would be viable to record vocals on. So I'm going to start incorporating them together. But yeah, you sort of just talk about it, talk about your band. I have my band's music is on my playlist. So like if people hear it, they're like, "Hey, is this your band?" Because it always has the song title at the bottom left, and yeah. So it kind of, you kind of have to bring it into there yourself. You can't just expect people to look at your panels and be like, "Oh, cool. I'm very interested in that." You kind of have to tell them about it to make them interested. You know what I mean?
I think there's definitely a benefit for incorporating some of your quirks or talents into your stream community, whether it's like having Dungeons and Dragons, or sculptures that you've done, art pieces that you've done, music that you've made, animations that you've created, clips that you've, curated. I think it's good to have that sort of authenticity or that, personal touch to it that helps you stand out a little bit, right? Because it brings a humanistic aspect into you as an individual. So you're not just playing a game, you're playing a game as a human with interests outside of that like singular thing. And I think that's what a lot of streamers sometimes struggle with is like getting those blinders on of like, well, I play X and that is what I do. I'm an X player. But it's like, but people want to know you as a person by and large, right? So doing things like incorporating that is really helpful. I think
some people are afraid of who they are sometimes too, and they'll be afraid. They'll have certain hobbies and they don't want to talk about them because maybe they're embarrassed of them or they're just not like too outspoken about what they're interested in. But I feel like a lot of people, should embrace that more. Like that's what causes people to be interested in you over the game you're playing. You know what I mean?
The likelihood you're going to have a hobby or an interest that like nobody else has is pretty low, right? You'll have those people that kind of come out of the closet and like, "Hey, I like XYZ too."
Oh, yes, definitely.
What?
Even people that like are just lurking. Yeah, people will just be lurking in your chat, and they might not type in your chat all that much, but if you start talking about, Warhammer or something, and they're like, "Hey, I love Warhammer," you might make a new friend that way.
That's actually that's a great way to get engagement is to talk about the things that you like to talk about.
Right. Exactly.
I was gonna say, have you converted anyone to For Honor? Like somebody who maybe wasn't there for that and like knows you some other way, and you've got managed to get them into the game?
Yeah, actually, Skeleton Man. Shout out to Skeleton Man. He raided me one time when I was playing For Honor, and a few of people that were watching his stream have came back to the stream and be like, "Hey, just so you know, you've got me into For Honor. This game's pretty cool." Like it's happened. It's awesome. Happened plenty of times, and it always makes me smile because For Honor is kind of a smaller game. Like there's not a whole lot of people that play it. Like it's a pretty small player base, and it's kind of got this niche community that is just kind of memey, and everyone kind of knows each other. So it helps to like bring more people into the fold that way.
Cool.
All right, so if you could do anything from like start your stream from the beginning, what would you change? What would you do? Day one, what would be different?
Day one, I would probably not stream from my apartment with my air conditioning on from my couch with no filters on my microphone.
We all gotta start somewhere, right?
So you would start your stream with better audio. That would be the thing.
Well, not just to reiterate on that, I guess not just better audio. I wish I would have paid more attention to what my stream looked and sounded like when I first started over just doing it. Because, you know, you first start, you're like, I want to play video games on the internet and I want people to watch me. Well, you kind of just start the stream and then like, all right, now I'm playing my game. Now people are going to watch me, right? Well, no. You have to make sure everything sounds good. And like my first
What?
couple months of streaming, like I used to have this really big AC box right in my apartment in the living room. And I used to stream from the living room on the couch. And I would turn the AC up all the way. And then I would never go back and watch the VODs or anything. And when I finally did, I was like, I can't even hear myself talk. All I can hear is the AC unit. So I wish, you know, I would have changed that. That would have been something good to change right away.
So like quality testing, and I think
Yeah.
that's something that we all are kind of uncomfortable doing, at least at first, but it's super important. You know, we don't want to go back and watch ourselves or listen to
Right.
ourselves, but it's so important.
Your
to-
voice
I have to listen to
eventually
myself all
starts.
day, you know?
Your voice eventually starts being less cringe to you. 'Cause
Yes.
when you first start, you're like,
Agreed.
oh, I hate my voice. I don't want to listen to myself. I don't wanna
You
listen to
all
myself.
went through this with me with the
I
soundboard.
really hope that's the
Stop
case.
it. Yes.
Yep.
You all said, I don't want to hear myself on the soundboard, and you're all doing it.
Yeah.
That's true.
True.
So that's one big thing I'd change. I guess the other thing I would change too is I would not stream, because I used to stream every single day, like Sunday through Sunday. Every day I'd stream, and like I would just stream for like 8 hours a day. Like the streams were terrible sounding, like I just mentioned, and like I wasn't retaining any viewership. Like I'd get like 2 viewers that's hung out all day, and I'd be like, yeah, that's good enough for now, whatever. And you know, maybe it is to some people, but it's not like a good way to grow, to just stream all the time. You know, you got to have days off. You got to give yourself rest and take days to like do things for your stream other than stream. You know what
What's
I mean?
your
Like,
opinion on how long someone should stream? What would you say is a good length for a stream? If I'm grilling you,
I guess that really depends on what the context is. If it's just a normal day, like you're just doing a normal stream, I guess it all depends on you, on like what you're comfortable doing without getting burnt out. For me,
Yeah.
I usually stream like in between 4 to 6 hours, Monday through Friday. On Fridays, sometimes I'll go pretty late in the night. If it's like a Friday night and I've got anything going on the next day, you know, maybe I'll do like a 7 or 8 hour stream. But if you're doing like if you're doing like a 12-hour charity event or something, that's okay too. If it's not every day, or a
Do you
24-hour
ever,
stream.
Do you ever consider your timing of streams based on when other streamers that are similar to you transition off?
No, not really. I know some
Okay.
people do. I
Yeah.
kind of just stream because this is the only time I really have.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, a lot of us are in that position. Yeah.
You know, I mean, this
Yeah.
is the only time I'm available to do things at my computer. Because otherwise I have my day job. But I mean, sometimes some people do that, especially if you're like in like a streaming like team or community where you're like, okay, I know this person's gonna get off at this time.
Right.
Maybe if I start my stream at this time, they'll raid me when they're over. Like some
Yeah.
people think that way, and I've done that before with like, maybe there's drops going on with For Honor, and I know some person's been streaming. They started their stream at noon. I'm starting mine at 7. They're probably going to end around that time. You know, kind of overlap. Like you can kind of work that out, but me personally, I don't really do it a whole lot.
Right.
Yep. That's where most of us just have to hope and have that it's luck. You know, we get luck on our side. I'm gonna go live when I go live, and hopefully it works.
There are good like golden hours for some streamers in certain categories. Like I know a lot of people think that like during the day is the golden time to stream, like when people are at work and school and stuff and are on their phones and whatnot. I feel like that's one good time, but I also feel like really late at night, like after like midnight is kind of a good time too for certain categories.
Yes, I think that has to do, as someone who streams late night, I think that has to do a little bit with, availability of other streamers to some degree.
Yep.
So you lose a certain group of audience, right? So there's less people from like Europe and, the UK and those types of areas. But there's also less people streaming. That's why actually I find Saturday night streams actually do fairly well for me, especially around that midnight hour, because a lot of full-time streamers take weekends off.
Right.
So really thinking about who your audience is and when it works well for you and realizing that there's opportunities everywhere, I think is really important.
Yep.
Yeah, I've noticed when I stream at like past midnight, there's a lot of EU people that are just waking up that are kind of like, hey, there's no one streaming right now in my time.
Exactly. So they start scraping the barrel, and you might be at the bottom of that barrel, but they're scraping you, and that's okay.
If
I'll
you just
take it.
keep degenerate hours, you will find those Europeans waking up for
Oh
sure.
yeah, and you'll have the people that are streaming, the Pacific time that's like 7 to 11 or something, and they'll raid into you, that hour or that time of day. You'll get a lot of people that potentially can raid you. I find if I stream later than usual, I end up being stuck because I end up getting a bunch of raids from people that are finishing.
Yeah, it happens to
And
me.
you're like,
It happens to me at least once a week. I'll be just getting ready to sign off, and I'll get a huge raid, and it's like, all right, we'll stay
and then
on
you
for
get
another hour.
one. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it happens.
That
That
could
also-
be definitely a challenge from a balance perspective because,
Yeah.
like you, Northern, I have a full-time day job. I think a lot of us have
Mhm.
secondary jobs, and trying to balance family and other responsibilities with but if I stream till 2 o'clock in the morning Eastern Standard, then I'm more likely to get raids, but then I only get 4 hours of sleep.
No.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that comes into the whole like balancing your life thing. Like if you can afford the time to give the people that come in with the raid the little bit of content that might make them follow, if that's worth it to you, then totally do it. But if it's
So
something
what's
that's gonna
your
like put
approach
you
about
back,
that? Tell me about how you handle days like that where you're
Um,
you're winding down potentially, but you're getting these raids and you're getting some hype. How do you manage that to try to keep people but be conscientious of your own time?
So I have a general cutoff time. Like I'm like, even no matter what, I don't care if I got raided by Ninja at this time. I have to at least I'll give them like 20 more minutes, and like if someone
Mhm.
raids me like as I'm like about to get off or like getting
Mhm.
close to that time, I'll kind of mention it like, hey, we're just wrapping up our night. Thanks for joining us. We're gonna do a couple more matches here, but it's been a pleasure. We're actually reaching the end of our night, but if you guys want to stick around, I stream Monday through Friday, kind of talk about that sort of a little bit.
Yeah.
And most people will appreciate the genuine honesty. You know what I mean? They're like, all right, that makes sense. This guy
Like
seems like an
hyping
all
up
right guy.
future streams. I
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that sort of thing.
I think in general, everyone should do what you just suggested and just
Right.
like take care of themselves first.
That's so much easier said than done, though.
I know.
There are some
I
nights
know.
where it's just so hard because you're like, oh my God, I'm at 100 or 200, and
I'm on a roll.
someone
I'm
just
going to turn
rated
this
me.
off, and now I'm going to have 20 when
Yeah,
I come
exactly.
back. Yeah.
It's like, oh hey, this big person just rated me. Bye. It's
Yeah.
a very hard mindset
But people-
to manage.
People in general will respect your schedule and your needs and all of that. And if they don't, then forget them. I mean, I had people. I had at one point I had somebody raid me, and I had to go to the bathroom. Like I had to pee so badly, and it had been like an hour. I'd been holding it. It was like way too long. Unhealthy status. It was like I had like I was at my limit. I was really at my limit, and I'm like. I guess got rated by like somebody who rated me with like 300 viewers, and I was like, I'm so sorry, I have to go to the bathroom. Enjoy my BRB screen.
Right.
And then people in my community were like, what are you doing? Why would you do that? And I'm like, you don't understand. It was an emergency. Like,
You don't understand. I had to pee real
yeah,
fast.
yeah. And they're like, I don't care. And I'm like, well, then you can go, right?
You just tell them that peeing your pants is against TOS.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Is it though? No, I'm kidding.
Like,
Is it? I do that every night.
That's not happening right now.
Yeah, it's against
no.
the rules of health. Don't do that to yourself. Yeah. Yeah.
Help.
So
One thing I'll do too, if like this is another thing that happens sometimes, I'm mid searching for somebody to raid, and I will get raided by a large amount. So what I'll do is if I'm like
that's
literally
nice.
ending stream and I'm searching for someone to raid, I will hype up the person that I'm about to raid, so that the raid that just came in goes to the next raid, and they're kind of excited about it somewhat because I just hyped it up a little bit. You know what I mean? That's
The creation of the raidception, if you
Yeah.
will. Yeah.
yeah,
The raid.
it's
is
totally
raid.
acceptable. It's totally acceptable.
It happens pretty frequently, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. People end at the same time, near the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just what's going to happen. But Rush, I want to thank you for joining us today again. Everybody, please check out Rush on his channel while he's live. It's been a pleasure talking with you about this stuff. We'll probably have you on again in the future at some point for other things.
It's a pleasure being here. Thank you very much for having me.
For sure.
Absolutely.
I think we don't really need any summary thoughts or anything. We should just wrap this up because it's been quite a long episode as it is. So, I just wanted to make sure everybody knows that you can check out Snazzy and Eat Your Meats on their channels. I also stream music a few days a week on my channel, and you can always join us on infinitequality.live if you want to join our community. We kind of have a weird thing. We have a Twitch team, but we're really more just a group of streamers trying to troubleshoot and help each other and figure things out. So that's the show. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Have a good one, everybody.
Go ahead.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful evening.
Bye now.
Good night, everybody.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.